I was sitting under an overpass, reading fortunes, when a middle-aged man walked by. His forehead was full and broad, but between his brows a dark aura emanated. I quickly stopped him. "Sir, you are about to face a great disaster soon." He waved his hand dismissively, annoyed. "Damn swindler, stop spouting nonsense." The next moment, he stepped into a puddle, slipped, and fractured his tailbone. I stood by, arms crossed, smirking. Oh my, this swindler is really spouting nonsense, isn't he? Ah, my name is Xue Qiao. After the temple burned down, my master pushed me down the mountain to earn money. Though my ability to exorcise ghosts and save souls is barely enough to protect myself, my sixth sense is incredibly accurate. Fortune-telling, Bazzi readings, and Feng Shui, I'm top-notch at all of them. I once taught my junior sister the little Liu Ren divination technique, and she ended up using it to calculate exam answers. The invigilator caught her red-handed, snapped a photo, sent it to the class group chat, and we teased her for ages. Today, after a full day of fortune-telling, I'd only made a little over 100 yuan. I was about to pack up and head back to my guest house when another middle-aged man approached. Between his eyebrows, an incredibly dense dark aura swirled, like undissolved ink. I stared at the man's face, feeling a little strange. He had a full forehead and a square jaw, the face of a man destined for great wealth and nobility. Such a dense dark aura shouldn't appear on someone like him. Could it be that his ancestral tomb has been disturbed? I raised an eyebrow. Excellent, looks like I have a job. As he was about to pass, I called out, "Sir, please halt." The man frowned, looking at me, but said nothing. I quickly continued, "You may face a very grave misfortune soon." He irritably waved his hand. "Damn swindler, stop spouting nonsense." I raised an eyebrow. "Nonsense, you say? Very well, just don't come begging me then." I was about to say more when I saw him trip over a ground-dwelling ghost, passing by, or rather, he just tripped on flat ground. With a thud, he fell flat on his backside. I stood beside him, arms crossed, silently celebrating. "Excellent, a fractured tailbone." Oh my, this damn swindler. Falling, are you still spouting nonsense? Falling. Perhaps my sarcasm was too obvious. The man was so enraged he wanted to crawl up and hit me, but his tailbone hurt too much, and he couldn't get up no matter how hard he tried. Seeing this, I fumbled in my pocket for a crumpled business card. "Sir, I've calculated with my fingers. You must have fractured your tailbone, and your home hasn't been peaceful lately either. If you believe me, call me. I'm always available." With that, I didn't look at his pained expression anymore, tucked the business card into his chest pocket, and left. Sometimes, changing one's fate depends on destiny. If he was fated to meet me, he would naturally seek me out. Less than an hour after I returned to my guest house, my phone rang. I saw the unfamiliar number, smiled faintly, and answered. "Hello, master. You were absolutely right. I really did fracture my tailbone. Hiss asterisk, it hurts like hell. And has your home been peaceful lately?" The other side hesitated for a moment, then said, "It really hasn't." "Master, how much do you know?" Was he testing my abilities? I glanced at the tortoise shell beside me. "Well then, I'll divine a hexagram for him. Consider it paving the way for more income." I thought of his face and said, "How about I cast a hexagram for you right now?" He immediately agreed. I straightened my robes, lit incense, and asked, "What is your name?" "Jiangming." "What year, month, day, and hour were you born?" "I was born in 73 on the 4 p.m. I silently calculated his Bazzi, Gui Chu, Jai Wei, Jia Chen, Wu Shen. Looking at his Bazzi, the first half of his life should have been difficult and the latter half prosperous. He was already middle-aged, which should be his time of prosperity, but it seemed not to be the case. I frowned. "Did you have a very hard life in your first half?" The other side sighed, as if admitting it. I understood. I held the tortoise shell, clasped my hands together, placed it in my palms, calmly thought of the question for divination, and then tossed the ancient coins from the tortoise shell. Cayenne on top, can below. This hexagram is water over mountain, or Jian, a hexagram of misfortune. I raised an eyebrow. "Sir, do you work in the aquaculture business?" The other side quickly said, "Yes. Your aquatic creatures at home must have died quite a lot, haven't they?" I hit the mark. The other side was silent for a long while before speaking. "Master, I'm hospitalized at an Min hospital. Could you possibly come find me? I'm so sorry, I should have come to pay my respects in person." His tone no longer held the initial contempt. even using honorifics. I originally intended to play hard to get, but my account balance reminded me that face couldn't be eaten. That evening, I scanned a public bicycle, huffing and puffing as I pedaled to the hospital. Following the address Jiang Ming provided, I found his hospital room. His family was quite wealthy. It was a luxurious private room. I could definitely make a big profit. Thinking this, I stepped inside. As soon as I entered, I saw him lying on his back in bed, constantly groaning in pain. This posture was truly unsightly. I clucked my tongue and shook my head. I remembered how the last person who didn't heed my advice was scared senseless by ghosts. This time, someone who didn't heed my advice tripped over a ground ghost and took a painful fall. Truly pathetic. Perhaps my disapproving sigh was too loud. Jiang Ming struggled to lift his head and look behind him. "Master, you're here? Please have a seat." He exerted himself to point a hand at the chair beside him. I replied and promptly flopped onto the chair. "Speak, what happened?" Jiang Ming sighed. "Lately, I don't know why, first my daughter fell and broke her leg at school, then my wife got burned while cooking, and even our dog was cheated on by his wife. I kept thinking it was just coincidence, but last night, almost all my aquatic creatures died, and the rest are barely clinging to life. At first, I thought someone poisoned them, but the surveillance cameras showed nothing." He finished speaking and sighed again. "I used to be a skeptic about ghosts and spirits, so when you, Master, spoke of misfortune, my attitude wasn't good. I hope you can forgive me." Outwardly, I waved my hand. "It's all right, I don't mind." But inwardly, I thought, just watch me extract a massive sum from this man. He wanted to say more, but I cut him off. No need to say anything else, I know it all. Combining what he told me with the hexagram I divined, I already had the answer in my heart. If this man was originally destined for great wealth and nobility, yet these misfortunes occurred before anyone tampered with his fate, then perhaps his ancestral lineage or household feng shui has a problem. However, looking at his face, his property palace showed no issues. Having the answer, I immediately spoke. "Your ancestral tomb might have been disturbed." "Jiang Ming," I quickly rephrased. "Your ancestral lineage might have been severed by someone." Jiang Ming's expression changed upon hearing this. He hastily pulled out his phone and called. "Hello, you scoundrel, my ancestral tomb has been dug up. Quickly get someone to check it." I stepped forward to stop him. "It's not necessarily solely an issue with the ancestral tomb. I need to go and see it in person." Jiang Ming immediately told the other party, "Never mind, you don't need to go. I'll have my daughter and the master go check." The other side wanted to say something more, but Jiang Ming hung up with a click, turned his head and looked at me. His tone was now utterly sincere. The speed at which his expression changed was truly remarkable. "Oh, master. I've injured my tailbone and it'll take at least half a month to recover. How about I have my daughter, Jiang Nian, accompany you to investigate?" I looked at his backside-down posture and nodded. In this position, he couldn't stand or sit, only lie on his stomach. I also didn't want him to follow us to the tomb site, lying on his back in a wheelchair. That would be too embarrassing. Then I took out my phone to check the almanac. Tomorrow was a day suitable for moving earth. So, tomorrow then, a perfectly auspicious day. Jiang Ming agreed, arranging to meet his daughter at the hospital entrance the next morning. The next morning, I met Jiang Nian at the hospital. She was also quite straightforward, perhaps because she'd only recently broken her leg. She was using a pair of crutches. "Master, my dad said some damn scoundrel dug up our ancestral tomb, right?" "Good, that tone truly shows she's her father's daughter," I explained. "Not necessarily, we'll know after we see it." She nodded. "All right then, I'll take you." With that, she walked towards a car. "Come, I'll drive you." I was slightly surprised. "Your leg," she generously tossed her crutches aside. "My leg's perfectly fine." Then I watched in stunned silence as she, having thrown her crutches, immediately crashed to the ground with a thud, then cursed and struggled to get up. I sighed, picked up the car keys that had fallen to the ground, and helped her up. "Never mind, I'll drive." She still tried to grab the keys back, but I had already opened the door and sat in the driver's seat. She gave up, asking, "Whose tomb do you want to see?" "Your grandfather's." Following the address she gave, I navigated and turned into a mountainous forest area. Although this land was in the mountains, its terrain was flat, surrounded by mountains on all sides, yet the northern peak was higher than the others. This was a classic, four directions paying homage, auspicious yin house. If an ancestral tomb were chosen here, it would bring great prosperity to descendants. Moreover, there were no signs of excavation around the tomb. But Jiang Ming's physiognomy wasn't showing such prosperity. Could there be another reason? I walked around the tomb a few steps, and some wild, enchanting flowers caught my attention. All the blossoms were red, showing only flowers, no leaves. They were Lycoris radiata, the legendary flowers said to bloom by the San Sheng River in the underworld. These flowers also exist in real life, scientifically known as stone garlic. But the problem was, it wasn't the season for Lycoris radiata to bloom. I bent down and touched the soil next to the tomb, feeling only a chill seep into me through my fingertips. Then I looked at the name on the tombstone, took out 3 Qianlong Tongbao coins, and immediately cast a hexagram. All 3 sides were yin faces, indicating great misfortune. But the feng shui here wasn't corpse-nurturing land. Why was this happening? Damn it, I had a bad feeling. This tomb, I'm afraid, has been tampered with. The corpse inside is about to turn into a Jiangshi, hopping zombie. I quickly told Jiang Nian, "Call your father now and ask him if we can open the coffin." She nodded and promptly made the call. I continued my investigation beside the tomb. The soil was loose and damp. I scooped up a bit of earth, brought it to my nose, and a fishy, earthy smell permeated my nostrils, accompanied by the distinct stench of a corpse. Finally, I tasted a little of the mud with the tip of my tongue. It was sour. Thankfully, a sour taste meant the corpse hadn't fully turned into a Jiangshi. If it had been bitter, it would have meant the corpse had broken out of its coffin, fully transformed, and its death energy had seeped deep into the earth. On the other side, Jiang Nian had finished talking with Jiang Ming. She looked at me awkwardly. "My dad said this spot was chosen by a famous feng shui master he paid a lot of money for. We can open the coffin, but if there's no problem with the tomb, master, you'll have to compensate us." I chuckled. Well then, perhaps he should find someone more capable. It wasn't that I was afraid of compensating if there was no problem, but this attitude was truly infuriating. Even though I offered my business card first, he was the one who called me, begging for help. Disagree, and he demands compensation. Does he think this is like buying vegetables at the market? Don't feng shui problems have to be eliminated bit by bit? I turned to leave. Jiang Nian quickly continued behind me. "But my dad said if there is a problem with the tomb and you can solve it, he'll pay you 500,000 plus a 100,000 service fee." My foot, which had just stepped out, retracted. "Little girl," Jiang Nian responded, "yes. Next time, get straight to the point when you talk. Damn it, I almost missed out on 600,000 yuan." She smiled naively. "So, master, what's the problem?" I didn't dare tell her directly that her grandfather was about to turn into a Jiangshi, so I had to be subtle. "Your grandfather's hair has grown long," she gasped. "My grandfather is coming back to life." I was speechless. "Are you dense?" I took out talismans and pasted them around the tomb, then instructed Jiang Nian. "Immediately contact someone to come here and erect a canopy. Absolutely do not let moonlight shine on the tomb tonight." She agreed and went to work immediately. I took out another talisman from my person. This talisman was not simple. It was written with pure yang blood. I had expended great effort just to get a little blood to write this talisman. I held the talisman in one hand and 3 Qianlong Tongbao coins in the other. I cast a hexagram, 2 yang faces, 1 yin face. Neither good nor bad, but definitely successful. Thinking this, I pasted the talisman directly onto the center of the tomb head, then chanted the rebirth mantra. Waiting for Jiang Nian to call people, her speed was very fast. In less than 15 minutes, 4 burly men arrived. They held a black tarpaulin, fixed its 4 corners to the ground, and quickly covered the entire yin dwelling. I called Jiang Nian back. "It's done. Tomorrow, find 12 men, 3 from each of the zodiac signs rooster, dog, pig, and monkey. They must be able-bodied men, not over 55, to help open the coffin." Jiang Nian repeatedly agreed. I looked up at the weather, instinctively performing a little Liu Ren divination. Crimson mouth, void, void. I lowered my eyes. This hexagram wasn't auspicious. I guessed something would happen tonight. The person in the coffin was Jiang Nian's grandfather. If he hadn't turned into a Jiangshi yet, it would be fine. If he had, the first person he would seek out would be Jiang Nian. Because she was young and a direct descendant, she could help him increase his power. Relatives, once turned into Jiangshi, are no longer family. They are merely living corpses. Jiang Nian saw me lost in thought and came over to ask, "What's wrong, master?" I thought for a moment and decided to tell her the truth. Something strange might happen tonight. You two had best prepare yourselves mentally." With that, I gave her a string of 5 emperor coins. "You must keep this safe tonight. Do not let it leave your person. Even if you hear any sounds at home, do not leave the house." Then I took out a box of cinnabar ink, drew an ink line around the tomb, and placed a paper rooster on top. I bit my finger, dabbed blood on the rooster's eyes. "Rooster, rooster, do not fear. If you hear any movement, quickly crow." After completing everything, I looked at my watch. It was nearly noon. The midday yang hour wasn't good for ordinary people, especially when in a yin dwelling surrounded by mountains. I greeted the others, told them not to linger, to leave quickly once finished, then pulled Jiang Nian into the car and drove away. Arriving at Jiang Ming's hospital, I instructed her that when the sun set, she absolutely must not leave the house. She replied, took the string of 5 emperor coins I gave her, and left. I entered the hospital room and gave Jiang Ming a piece of spirit jade from my person. "Tonight, some things might happen. You must absolutely remember, no matter who calls you, do not answer." The most crucial factor for old Mr. Jiang to transform into a Jiangshi is the vital energy of his direct descendants. If Jiang Nian's or Jiang Ming's vital energy is taken by grandfather Jiang's spirit, he will transform tonight. Otherwise, it might be delayed for a few days. After giving my instructions, I left the hospital room, huffing and puffing as I pedaled a public bicycle back home. At midnight, I distinctly heard a rooster crow. I silently cursed, "Not good," and quickly called Jiang Ming. The other side seemed to have just woken up, asking what was wrong. His voice sounded normal. I divined a hexagram, "Great peace," which meant nothing had happened. Then I thought of Jiang Nian and divined a hexagram for her as well. It also showed "Great peace." But I had clearly heard the rooster crow, and the yin dwelling had been sealed by my ink line and covered by the canopy, so moonlight shouldn't have been able to cause any corpse transformation. I looked up out the window, towards the yin dwelling, but saw thick dark clouds gathering in the sky there. "Damn it," I cursed silently. "How could I forget this? If someone tampered with it, someone would surely try to ruin everything I'd set up. But I never expected that person to have the ability to summon wind and rain like that." I frowned. Could it be Master Xiao, the rain god? I stood up, put on my Taoist robes, and brought 2 boxes of glutinous rice and a peach wood sword embedded with ancient coins. I was about to leave when I checked the clock. 1 a.m., a wave of drowsiness hit me. I hesitated for a moment and divined another hexagram. "Small auspicious, great peace, great peace." I breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed he wouldn't turn into a Jiangshi for now. I took off my clothes and went back to sleep. The world is vast, but sleep is paramount. In my dream, I saw Yao Ryu scolding me. "Damn it, you even need to divine a hexagram before taking a piss." I was about to argue back when my phone woke me up. I looked at the clock. It was 8 a.m. Jiang Nian was already waiting at the hospital entrance to go with me to open the coffin. I changed into my Taoist robes, gathered my ritual tools, and my phone rang again. "Give me the address, I'll pick you up." Damn it, what kind of man is so slow-witted? Tisk, what a fiery temper. I gave the address, and before I could say anything, the other side hung up. Such an impatient personality, I sighed. Someone was coming to pick me up, so I went to look for an egg to make breakfast. The egg had just been dropped into the pot when my phone rang again. The other side only had 2 short words. "Downstairs." I was about to say something. The other side then threw out 3 words. 600,000 yuan. "All right, I surrender. I'll be right down. I will." My voice sounded somewhat flattering, but earning money without losing face was the goal. Downstairs, Jiang Nian unhappily scolded me for being slow, then tossed me the car keys. A total of 4 cars had arrived. As per my request, 12 burly men were there to open the coffin. But thinking of last night's events, my heart sank. I quickly said, "Wait, I need to invite 2 assistants." Jiang Nian glanced at me and nodded. I took out my phone, typed a message with the Yin Dwelling's address, and sent it to the group chat. According to the temple's rules, when one disciple is in trouble, those called upon must help. After sending the message, I got into the driver's seat and drove to the tomb from yesterday. Upon arrival, the scene before me made me hold my breath. The tombstone was cracked, the canopy over the tomb had a hole punched in it, the soil beneath the tomb was loose and damp, the ink line on the tomb had been washed away. Only the talisman made with pure yang blood remained intact, pasted on the head of the tomb, suppressing the last wisp of resentful energy. It seemed this talisman had indeed stopped the other person, whose cultivation wasn't that high. Jiangshi saw this scene, her voice starting to tremble. "Master, what do we do?" "It's all right," I comforted her. "My assistants will be here shortly." No sooner had I spoken than I felt a sharp gust of wind from behind. I turned to dodge, and with a clank, a rock fell to the ground. If I hadn't reacted so quickly, my head might have split open by now. "Xue Qiao, you'd better have a real reason or I'll flay you." Dianmu had arrived, followed by Yao Ryu. The two of them arrived simultaneously, their tempers as fiery as ever. Seeing the two of them, I felt much more at ease and quickly motioned for the 12 men to begin digging the tomb. The moment I removed the talisman, I distinctly felt the tomb beneath vibrate. Yao Ryu frowned, pulling Dianmu back a step. She formed a hand seal, and I saw a stream of white light dive into the tomb. Sometimes, I truly appreciated her pure yin constitution's ability to soothe resentful spirits. Then I told the 12 men to start digging. When the outer coffin was fully exposed, they used thorny ropes to tie it securely, then threaded rough wooden poles through the ropes. They shouted loudly, 1, 2, 3, lift! The coffin remained motionless. I realized something was wrong. Looking towards Dianmu, she raised an eyebrow, stepped forward, and pulled a small vial of blood from her pocket, dripping it onto the coffin. I was astonished by her action. She gave an embarrassed laugh. "Aren't I afraid of pain? Last time, when Yao Ryu was pacifying a wandering spirit, I took a bit of her blood while her wound was still fresh to keep as a reserve." "Excellent. I give that move full marks." The coffin, once smeared with blood, became much lighter. I took out ancient coins and cast a hexagram. All 3 sides were yin faces, indicating great misfortune. But the coffin had already been lifted. At this point, we could only open it. I turned back to Jiangshi and said, "Jiangshi, your grandfather's corpse probably has a problem. You quickly get them to leave, and as for me and my assistants..." Before I could finish, I was smacked on the head. "Xue Qiao, if you call me and my senior sister your assistants one more time, I'll flay you," Yao Ryu said in a low, dangerous voice. I shuddered and quickly corrected myself. "My junior sisters and I will handle this." Jiangshi nodded, told me to be careful, then signaled the 12 men to place the coffin aside and left without looking back. I stepped forward to open the coffin. Yao Ryu stood behind me, while Dianmu, terrified, hid behind a tree. "You two open it first, I don't dare to look." As expected, her powerful yet timid nature was revealed. Yao Ryu rolled her eyes. "Hurry up, I still have a test tonight." I drew out my peachwood sword, slid it into the gap of the coffin lid, then circled the coffin once, cutting the yellow sealing ropes. Then, with force, I wedged the peachwood sword into the gap, pried open the coffin lid, and a thick plume of black smoke billowed out. I held the peachwood sword, formed a wind seal, and commanded, "Wind, rise." Immediately, the wind dispersed the black smoke. Yao Ryu and I stepped forward to inspect the corpse. As I predicted, the body had undergone Jiangshi transformation. Its fingernails and hair had grown long, and it had even sprouted a pair of fangs, looking utterly terrifying. Yao Ryu stared thoughtfully for a moment, then stepped forward and snapped off the newly grown fangs. "What are you doing?" She put the fangs away. "The fangs of a Jiangshi that hasn't fully transformed, if ground into powder, can ward off evil." On the other side, Dianmu was completely panicking. "Are you two done yet? I want to go home," I sighed. "This corpse hasn't fully transformed into a Jiangshi. To resolve this, we can only take it back to the temple for pacification, then rebury it." I was about to take out my phone to call Master when fog suddenly enveloped us, accompanied by a faint scent of incense. Yao Ryu reacted very quickly. She rushed to Dianmu's side, pulling her towards the open ground in front while yelling, "Damn it, there's a ghost! Don't stay under the trees!" Dianmu, pulled abruptly, shrieked, "Ah, ghost, go away!" Yao Ryu clamped her hand over Dianmu's mouth. Dianmu choked, had tears welling in her eyes, looking truly pitiful. I couldn't help but marvel, standing there. Indeed, she used to be a celebrity, she still had that aura. Yao Ryu glared at me. "At a time like this, you still have the mind to look at Dianmu?" I gave a forced laugh. "She's beautiful, who wouldn't want to look?" Strange funeral horns echoed in our ears. White and red smoke began to rise from both sides of the forest. The 3 of us stood back to back, Dianmu's legs already wobbly, constantly wanting to buckle. "Sister, you're my elder sister by blood, you're the strongest among us. At this critical moment, don't mess things up." Yao Ryu paused for a moment. I can't rely on that ghost-catching rookie, Xue Qiao, being called a ghost-catching rookie. I was a little unconvinced. Yao Ryu glanced at me disdainfully. Then you go, I deflated. I'm a rookie. At this moment, Diane Mu regained her voice. She trembled as she spoke. Don't argue anymore. We might have encountered the red and white twin fiends. The sound of funeral horns grew closer and closer in our ears. In my direction, I saw spectral figures carrying a coffin slowly emerge from deep within the forest. Yao Ryuk said, I see the ghost bride's palanquin. Diane Mu in the middle struggled to brace herself. She drew out her peachwood sword, bit her finger, and smeared blood on the blade. I am the family head of the Diane clan of Bei Dao. With no descendants, I single-handedly cultivated my lineage. Now facing the red and white twin fiends, I pray that my master and ancestors manifest to help me. With that, the peachwood sword immediately emitted a golden light. Diane Mu, holding it, truly had the demeanor of an immortal. Yao Ryu was surprised to see this. We don't even know how many years of cultivation these red and white twin fiends have, and you're already using your ultimate move. Diane Mu said timidly, This is the only way I feel safe. Yao Ryu fell silent, clearly at a loss with her senior sister. I also quietly drew my peachwood sword. Yao Ryu, left with no choice, could only draw her sword too. I am Yao Ryu of the extreme yin constitution, specifically summoning the Ghost King, Shen Tu, to assist me. How dare you bully me, thinking I don't have a big move? Before I could even finish sighing, the red and white fiends from both sides had drawn near, finally stopping to surround us. I was about to make a move when the twin fiends suddenly began to intertwine and merge, spinning around us. Their speed increased, and I felt dizzy. Before my eyes, everything suddenly went dark. I fell into the bride's palanquin. I wanted to run out, but several burly men held me tight. I was shocked to look at the clothes on my body. It was a wedding dress. The auspicious hour has arrived, bow to the heavens. A piercing voice rang in my ears. I was astonished and looked up, but was dragged out of the palanquin. They pressed down on my shoulders, forcing me to bow to heaven and earth. I understood. I had entered the ghost bride's memory. Now I had become her. They forced me to bow to heaven and earth to a rooster at a wedding. Only then did I notice something abnormal. It was clearly a wedding, but everything around was white, even the characters. There were no smiles on anyone's faces. They all coldly watched everything. First bow to heaven and earth. This sound was like a death-summoning charm, relentlessly crashing into my ears. Second bow to the ancestral hall. The old couple on the high platform with murky eyes stared intently at me. They smiled eerily. Husband and wife bow to each other. I refused to bend, but they pressed down hard on my shoulders. I heard a crunch. Both my shoulders were dislocated. The intense pain left me no time to think, only to let out a cry of agony. Ah! The matchmaker beside me frowned. Into the bridal chamber. I thought everything was finally over, but to my surprise, the matchmaker stepped forward, pinched my face, and said, Seal the 7 orifices. I opened my eyes wide, shook my head wildly, saying no, but I was held tight. They stuffed silver fragments and spirit talismans into my mouth. I shook my head, trying to avoid it, but many hands pressed down on my head, making it impossible to move. The matchmaker took out a needle and thread, starting to sew from the corners of my mouth, pulling the hemp thread taut through my skin. Fresh blood trickled down my chin and onto the ground. The horrible pain made me struggle, but as it was the bride's body, my strength was too weak. I couldn't break free. I could only clearly feel the needle and thread piercing through my flesh, stitching my mouth tightly shut. Then 2 other people came forward. They took out a pair of silver nails. One person held my head tightly, then slowly hammered the nails into my ears. I felt only a ringing sound, followed by pain, again, a horrifying pain. Tears of helplessness streamed down my face. I was held so tightly I couldn't budge, and my ears became deafened. I thought everything was over, but then I saw them holding larger silver nails, slowly approaching my eyes. Instinctively, I squeezed my eyes shut. The silver nails were slowly hammered into my eyes, bit by bit. I felt my eyeballs being crushed and bursting. The intense sensation of foreign objects invading me left my whole body numb. The pain was so severe that I lost all feeling. I considered myself someone with very high pain tolerance, but I nearly fainted from the agony. I could no longer see, hear, or speak. Surely it should be over now. I felt myself being embraced and placed into a coffin, and an excruciating pain shot through my legs. Nails piercing through bone were driven through my leg bones, arm bones, and shoulder blades, nailing me tightly into the coffin. Amidst the pain, I felt another corpse being placed beside me. The pungent stench of the corpse filled my nostrils. I wanted to vomit, but my mouth was sewn shut, and tears mixed with blood streamed down my face. I don't know what was shoved into my nose, but the pain made me clench my fists tightly. I couldn't breathe anymore. Despair and terror engulfed my heart. I was a grown man, 23 years old, who had encountered ghosts and monsters since childhood, yet I had never felt such fear or despair. I never expected to experience this today in someone else's body. If a man like me felt this way, how much more so the owner of this body, just a young girl? 7 orifices sealed, coffin lid closed. The final ritual was complete. She died in utter despair and agony. I awoke with a sharp pain. Diane Mu and Yao Ryu were beside me. They also seemed to be experiencing some kind of agony, their brows furrowed, wanting to cry but unable to. The three of us leaned against old Mr. Jiang's tombstone. I was trying to process what I had just experienced when I heard Diane Mu and Yao Ryu let out pitiful cries. They had woken up. I asked them if they had experienced the ghost bride's memories. Yao Ryu, her face grim, nodded. Diane Mu still didn't seem fully lucid. The extreme fear had made her a little slow. Poor her, with her constitution, to have to follow me through such things. A moment later, she came back to her senses. "I'm never coming here again. I'd rather go wash Master's feet." A few sentences perfectly expressed her inner turmoil. At this moment, a strange sound came from behind the tomb pit. We looked back and saw a red-clad ghost standing on the tombstone. "Ghost!" Diane Mu shrieked, collapsing to the ground. I raised my peach wood sword, shielding the two girls. Only then did I realize she was the ghost bride from the illusion, and her sealed 7 orifices, the silver piece blocking her nose, had fallen out. No wonder she could escape. She didn't move, just hovered over the tomb. Although her eyes were nailed shut, I could still feel her staring at me. We stood still, not interfering with each other, looking at each other for a long time. No one dared to take another step. I knew she was wary of Yao Ryu and Diane Mu. Yao Ryu stood by, staring at her for a long time. Finally, she took action, stepping forward to pick up a shovel discarded on the ground, jumping into the tomb pit, and continuing to dig. The red-clad ghost hovering over the tomb seemed to nod. Seeing this, I also quickly grabbed a shovel and dug with her. Diane Mu huddled to one side, saying nothing, probably scared out of her wits. I don't know how long we dug, but we finally hit another coffin buried underground. I frowned. It seemed this was the reason old Mr. Jiang turned into a Jiangshi, a coffin on top of a coffin, and the lower one contained a resentful ghost from a ghost marriage. Old Mr. Jiang, permeated by this resentful energy for so long, it would be strange if he hadn't turned into a Jiangshi. But logically, yin-yang feng shui masters couldn't possibly be unaware of this. How could Jiang Ming have been allowed to bury his father here? Furthermore, Jiang Ming had been prosperous for several years. What exactly happened? I looked at the coffin lid, and a suppressing talisman caught my eye. I understood. That yin-yang master had suppressed the resentful energy inside, which was why Jiang Ming had been prosperous for a few years. But due to insufficient cultivation, the resentful energy had still broken through the talisman after a few years. Yao Ryu tore off the suppressing talisman, raised the shovel in her hand, and said, "Smash it!" Before I could react, she raised her shovel and struck the coffin directly. Immediately, a large hole was smashed through the coffin. Ah, so that's it, truly a young heroine with strength to move mountains and an indomitable spirit. This was a double coffin, one hole wasn't enough. I also raised my shovel and struck the coffin directly. The coffin cracked in one line. I felt a little embarrassed, intending to strike again. Yao Ryu said in a low voice, "Get out of the way." I felt my masculine honor being questioned. She shot me a sidelong glance, and I had no choice but to give in. "Yes, your humble servant yields." She let out a cold HMPH, raised her shovel again, and with another strike, the coffin completely shattered. This kind of ghost marriage coffin is sealed with nails all around to prevent the bride from escaping. It definitely can't be opened, so this is the only way. She explained, then paused, looking up at the red-clad ghost. "Sorry about that, we'll get you a new one later." The coffin was smashed to pieces, revealing the corpse inside, which was now just a skeleton. Yao Ryu reached in and removed the silver nails from the 7 orifices and the silver fragments and spirit talismans from the mouth. I pulled out the silver nails embedded in the bones. After all the silver nails were removed, the red-clad ghost let out a pitiful cry. She shed her vengeful spirit form, returning to her original appearance, a very delicate and pretty girl. She opened her mouth to thank us. Just as she spoke one word, Diane Mew above shrieked tremblingly, "You too, talk later. He's about to turn into a Jiangshi." Her voice was filled with despair. "Damn it," I cursed silently. "Not good, I completely forgot about old Mr. Jiang." I quickly scrambled out of the tomb pit, only to see old Mr. Jiang already standing up from his grave. The ghost bride's pitiful cry just now had caused old Mr. Jiang, who had been nourished by resentful energy, to fully transform into a Jiangshi. But because his fangs had been broken off by Yao Ryu, he looked quite comical. "What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?" Diane Mew rushed to Yao Ryu, who had just climbed out of the tomb pit. "Yao Ryu, I'm so scared. He's lost his fangs, so he won't bite people anymore, right?" She pinched Yao Ryu's arm tightly. Yao Ryu sighed. "Yes, but could you please stop pinching me? You're hurting me to death." Diane Mew let go, her legs still trembling. She picked up the peachwood sword from the ground, pointing it at old Mr. Jiang. Yao Ryu smiled softly. "Don't be afraid, I'll protect you." Diane Mew looked at her, touched. The next moment, old Mr. Jiang let out a groan and quickly leaped towards the two of them. Yao Ryu instantly dodged to one side, leaving old Mr. Jiang directly facing Diane Mew. Diane Mew's eyes widened. She stared at Yao Ryu's action in astonishment, cursing, "Damn it, Yao Ryu, you're not human." It must be said, Yao Ryu was as cunning as ever. At this moment, old Mr. Jiang was already in front of her. Diane Mew raised her peachwood sword, closed her eyes, and without thinking, brought it straight down onto old Mr. Jiang's head. Old Mr. Jiang was immediately split in half, falling to the ground. Indeed, worthy of her pure yang constitution, even a Jiangshi renowned for being impervious to blades was split in half. But this was not the time for such exclamations. I sighed, looking at the two halves of the corpse on the ground and the black fluid flowing out, feeling a bit helpless. I had thought Diane Mew was powerful, but the worst outcome I'd predicted was her decapitating it, not splitting the entire body in half like this. After a few seconds of mental strain, I took out my phone and made a call. "Hello, Mr. Jiang. If I told you your father was already split in half, would you believe me?" The other side was silent for a few seconds, then said, "Tell me." Half an hour later, Jiang Ming arrived at the scene with several burly men. He looked at his father's corpse, split in half and lying on one side, the tombstone with a large crack, the grave dug to its depths. His voice was filled with suppressed indignation. "Master, I've taken a special painkiller to come here. I just want to know what exactly happened." "I can explain." I stepped forward, looking at him sincerely. "Your father's hair grew long." He looked at me with displeasure. Yao Ryu couldn't stand it. She stepped forward. "Your father fully transformed into a Jiangshi. There was no other way, we could only split him in half with one strike." She spoke as if she were carving meat. This piece of meat wasn't good, there was no other choice but to cut it off. Jiang Ming didn't believe her. Yao Ryu pointed at the corpse on the ground. "See for yourself, look at his fingernails." Jiang Ming, hearing her words, bent down to get a clearer look. Suddenly, the other half of the corpse moved, and its hand immediately clamped around Jiang Ming's neck. Yao Ryu quickly drew out her peachwood sword, severing the arm with one strike, then used a talisman to stick onto the severed hand, forcing the arm to loosen its grip. "Believe it now?" she asked. Jiang Ming, gasping for breath, quickly nodded, still terrified. He asked me, "Master, now what do we do?" I looked at the corpse and said, "Only cremation." He still wanted to say something. Yao Ryu raised the severed arm. He flinched back, then reluctantly agreed, turning to call people to return the corpse to the coffin, but no one dared to step forward. Diane Mew saw this, pasted a talisman onto the corpse, then flashed a sweet smile at the burly men. "The talisman will make it harmless, so please, gentlemen." Seeing this, the men smiled awkwardly and quickly said, no problem, just a small matter." Finally, they stepped forward to help. Indeed, before beauty, everything else is fleeting. The aftermath. After they finished tidying up and left, Jiang Ming kept his word, transferring 600,000 yuan to you. I raised an eyebrow. We could return to the temple, but there seemed to be one more matter. I looked up at the ghost bride, who was chatting with Yao Ryu and Diane Mew, and asked, "Hey, are you planning to be reincarnated?" Diane Mew scolded me for being rude. "She has a proper name, Zhao Dai." I was speechless. What kind of strange name is that? Yao Ryu nodded. Exactly, what a strange name. Diane Mu looked confused. Huh. After Yao Ryu explained, she damn it, what a strange name. Zhao Dai bowed her head. I stepped forward and asked her, so, do you intend to enter the cycle of reincarnation? She shook her head. Then you can only become a household ghost. I looked at Diane Mu. You too take her in as a household ghost. She took a step back. With my guts, if I got up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and saw her, wouldn't I be scared out of my mind? I looked at Yao Ryu. She shook her head. No, I already have one. That one is very jealous. I can't take in another. I sighed. I want to take her in, but my fate. Zhao Dai stepped forward. It's all right, I don't mind. I looked at her in surprise. Did she realize I had a lonely star fate? She smiled at me and nodded. Then from now on, you are my master. I waved my hand. No, don't call me master, just call me Xue Qiao, she replied. I thought of something and said, change your name, take my surname, call yourself Xue Yao. She was beautiful in the prime of her youth and had a gentle personality, truly a lady of a good family. She nodded. What about my ghost marriage contract? Yao Ryu smiled and said, no need to worry. Since you're now a household ghost and were forced into that ghost marriage, the contract is no longer valid. I subtly noticed her hiding her hand behind her back, secretly burning a yin contract dissolution talisman, and chuckled. It seems having a good relationship with the Ghost King has its benefits. Xue Yao finally breathed a sigh of relief. I looked at the coffin we had dug up and smashed, then went to refill the pit. It seemed Jiang Ming's father would have to find another place for reburial, as things had to be done in proper order. And after finding a new burial site for Jiang Ming's father, the dark aura between his eyebrows finally dispersed. I took the 600,000 yuan and Xue Yao back to the temple. On the way, she asked me, why do you always avoid your junior sisters and master? I was startled for a moment, then laughed. Do I? She thought seriously. Yes. At first, I thought everyone had a great relationship, but after that one time, they stopped contacting each other. They call you to eat, but you don't go. I felt a little helpless. Have a lonely star fate, destined to be separated from father, mother, relatives, and friends. Of course, I have to keep a bit of distance from them. Xue Yao mused, but I feel like they don't mind. That's because I haven't told them, but I know myself, so keeping a bit of distance is also good for them. I truly don't want to lose any more loved ones. But Xue Yao chuckled softly. Do you think, with their powerful abilities, those two wouldn't know you have a lonely star fate? I sighed. Oh, come on, let's just leave it like this. I think it's fine. She pouted and then slipped back into the gourd I wore around my neck. Worrying so much will only hurt their feelings. I pretended not to hear, pushed open the temple door, and entered. All right, transfer half to me, then go eat. Master stood by the door, waiting for me to transfer the money. Yao Ryu and Diane Mu were already waiting for me at the dinner table. Little Zuzai, come quickly. Diane Mu called me, but was smacked on the head by Master's wife. Impudent, call him senior brother. She stuck her tongue out at me. Yao Ryu winked at me, pointing to my bowl. In the bowl was a duck wing, my favorite dish as a child. She mouthed to me, come quickly, Diane Mu and I purposely saved it for you. I smiled in response, quickly washed my hands, and sat down to eat. Yao Ryu, her mouth full of meat, mumbled to me, next time you refuse to hang out, I'll tear you to shreds. You clearly earned enough money, yet you still claim to be busy. Diane Mu nodded. That hateful Xue Qiao making me call him personally, and he still refused me. She looked at me. Please, I'm a celebrity earning millions every minute. I burst out laughing. Next time, I definitely will go. Definitely next time. Senior brother, Yao Ryu suddenly called softly. Actually, Diane Mu and I were never afraid of being crossed, clashed with, harmed. After all, our Bazi are stronger than anyone's. I was slightly stunned. How did she know? I looked towards the gourd and understood. Suddenly, my nose felt a little sting. Perhaps it was just the spicy vegetables. Hearing my words, she smacked me hard on the head. After we eat, how about the three of us go stargazing? It's been so long. I clutched my head, nodding miserably. Diane Mu gracefully wiped her mouth and also agreed. I sighed contentedly. Home is truly the most comfortable place, even if they often smack my head. Yao Ryu also had a household ghost named Jiang Rao. At this moment, she was arguing with Xue Yao. My little Taoist priest is the best. She took me in. My Xue Qiao is the best. He removed my seals. My little Taoist priest is the best. Fearing I'd get hurt, she pushed me into the demon sealing mirror. My Xue Qiao is the best. He gave me a name. Jiang Rao was stunned. What? Xue Yao grinned. Looks like you're a household ghost who hasn't been given a name yet. HMPH, I'm a household ghost with a proper name. Jiang Rao angrily huffed. So what? My little Taoist priest is more powerful. Xue Qiao stared at me for a moment, then turned and yelled at Jiang Rao. So what? My Xue Qiao dares to watch videos of beautiful girls alone until midnight. Jiang Rao wasn't to be outdone. My little Taoist priest dares to perform spells in the exam room without studying. Yao Ryu, Xue Qiao, Jiang Rao. Yao Ryu and I spoke in unison. You too, be quiet. Dian Mu burst out laughing beside us. Ha ha ha, if you two keep arguing, you'll expose what color underwear Xue Qiao and Yao Ryu are wearing. Master, hearing our illustrious achievements from behind, shook his head. What a misfortune for the sect. I just wanted to cry, but no tears came out. What a mess.